Come have a seat, Scott.
Yeah, man, this is fun. This is like back in college, except people listen to us perform. Yeah.
And they're dressed nice.
And they're dressed nice. And they're, well, they're a little bit drunk.
A little bit drunk.
Not as drunk as you.
We're on a college campus. We got that going for us.
This is true.
Do you remember? I'm not going to reveal the friend, but the friend, we both had the experience where the description of this guy was like our friend who had a sweater. He was dressed nice. He was like the one guy.
I think I do. Yeah. Yeah. There was like one. Yeah.
We both had the observation that he was like the most put together 18-year-old in our lives. He went on to be very successful too.
Did he? No, okay.
Yeah, he kept
we'll
going.
Talk after because
yeah.
We can compare notes. I think I knew what you were talking about. Yeah.
So there's this thing that happens, and I've been watching you do this which is weird to say, like 24 years now.
Yeah.
Where you hear something that you know, because like nobody doesn't know music. It's as easy as knowing words.
Right.
Like whatever mom's playing on the radio or whatever's in the car or whatever. Like we all know it. But like when you hear something in a way that you don't expect, in a good way, like why do you think that works so well? That it's just like all of a sudden like, familiar.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just that. It's kind of blending. If you can blend the familiar with something novel, that's always. I mean, we think of so many movies that have done that. They've taken familiar Star Wars. I'm sure Ben's probably written about that. Star Wars. You think about the Joseph Campbell hero's journey, and then put that in the Star Wars universe. It's taking something familiar that's really kind of in us, in a sense, and then blending it with something novel, put it in space. That's the next thing. I'm going to do these mashups in space, and then
You're basically gonna like go through the production of like you're gonna do Jason X in space.
Yeah.
It's basically follow the horror movie format.
Yeah.
It's a good play. That's a good look for you.
But I think also it does also speak to the idea that what we try to do at our shows is bring generations together. We try to bring, and it's fun to look out in the front row. Sometimes we got like these young kids that are Gen Z or even younger, and they're singing along to a Nicki Minaj song. And then right next to them is their like 96-year-old grandmother doing the same thing, just it's a beautiful thing.
And and this is the mind bender. So like if you haven't seen PMJ live, like going to see them live is to actually witness this thing where, because like the 90-year-old probably doesn't know, maybe doesn't connect with the Nicki Minaj song in the same way, but still might recognize it.
Right.
Like there's a reverse connection that happens here too. That's so cool.
Yeah.
What do you think's happening in like the reverse?
Reverse meaning like
the 90-year-old who's now
or appreciating like an older genre.
I can bust it like it's hot when it's
Well, we definitely have the reverse in that younger people will, they don't know the song list from the 1940s. Maybe they don't know those songs, but they do recognize that style, and there's something that it really taps into people's nostalgia. And nostalgia can be for a time that you'd never even lived in. People have nostalgia all the time for things, in the 20s or the 30s. And that's what makes all those kind of theme parties, I guess, kind of a fun thing. So it is a way to kind of, break down some of those barriers between the generations, I think.
The other amazing thing about the shows is how much there's this local element to where they are. Like it's not at the local Coliseum where it's, whatever giant act is coming through. There's no Eras tour where it's like, people are flying in from other countries. I'm sure once in a while that happens. But like to set up a show in a local place, like that takes a lot of stuff. I mean, even a conference like this.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like, how do you think about just the impact on these small local communities when you show up from out of town?
Well, I think that really everybody would be more advised to think local, really, than anything else. I think that we've been tricked by the internet in some ways to think that we need to think global about everything. And, when you think about it, some of these platforms, they're kind of a ridiculous notion. Like Twitter is the idea of everybody in the world talking to everybody else at the same time. Like when you just say that, when you think of it that way, that's craziness. That's just insane. I think more people would be advised to think about what's local. And local doesn't necessarily mean their local, geography or anything like that, or anything like it could be even just something like this. Like this is definitely, it has a local feel to it. It feels like a community. It feels like people that know each other, people that have corresponded with each other on different things, and I think that is kind of the spirit that we want to have as well. When we go to all these different cities, and our cast, one of the benefits of having a large cast and having all kinds of just different performers, various of all walks of life that come on tour with us, is that they all get to explore the local communities, and we get to they become our ambassadors essentially. They're going to record shops. I mean, last I saw, I think they're in Denmark, and then the other day they were in Germany, and a whole bunch of them went and got tattoos. So they're definitely yeah, people, they're becoming part of the communities, and we tour some of these places. We go every year, so it just becomes a really special thing. But and also the other thing about global versus local, I think that we got to skip a lot of steps when we started because we were a YouTube phenomenon, I guess, for lack of a better term. So we didn't have to do the local band circuit. We didn't have to play small places. We got to do a Europe tour, at the same time we did a US tour. That's not the experience that most people have traditionally with touring. Usually you have to start local. You have to start. And so I would caution against, the idea that, okay, now because of internet, because of YouTube, everything can immediately be the biggest thing ever. Like, it takes a lot of work to put together a show. It takes a lot of work to put together a conference. And that doesn't happen unless you have a relationship with the people in your community, the local people.
I want to talk about, I think it's called shit posting.
Yeah. I like the segue. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Well, you made me think about this because one of the favorite things to hate on for most of my adult life has been the group Nickelback. And in like the most interesting way, I'm not going to say you were shit posting about Nickelback, but you were kind of like commenting on Nickelback way back in the beginning, the Motown tribute.
So what he's referencing is the original name of Postmodern Jukebox was a Motown tribute to Nickelback. It's the way it was.
So this is a story worth telling. So this is the early days still.
Yeah.
And like set the stage of what was going on as this beautiful concept was born into the world.
It was I was playing around with this concept of taking modern day culture and putting it back in time. How would these songs sound? And I'm always interested. I'm always drawn to things that maybe the general public has a really strong feeling towards. I think I'm a little bit contrarian at heart. So my goal was basically, and I guess this came against a backdrop. There was like a Change.org petition to not have Nickelback. Man, this is a sign of the times. There was a Change.org. This shows you how silly everything was back in the 2010s. There was a Change.org petition to remove Nickelback from a halftime show in Detroit just because people didn't like Nickelback. There was no reason. They weren't canceled. It was just they were Nickelback. And so my goal was basically, with this low budget video that I produced, can I get people to like a Nickelback song? Can I get people that say that they hate Nickelback to change their mind about it? And that was like my obsession with that one project. And it went so well that we actually got booked at a festival to play a Live Nation festival as a Motown tribute to Nickelback. And I tried to actually pitch Postmodern Jukebox to this. I said, I got this other act that I'm working on, I got this new concept for it. We don't just cover Nickelback. We take Britney Spears back in time. We take Aerosmith. We take Justin Bieber. And they're like, actually, I'm going to stop you right there. We just want Nickelback.
So it worked so well. Now,
it worked that well.
The original bit was just like a medley, though, right?
It was just one song. It was the song. Never made as a wise man. That one.
The heads all start bobbing.
Yeah.
But so like you get invited to a festival. They wanted more than one song too.
We had to learn. We spent the whole summer. We had to learn every Nickelback song. We had to learn like 10 songs. I know if it comes on the radio, I know every word of these Nickelback songs, and I kind of like them now. I don't know. Maybe it's Stockholm syndrome, but it's. But then that speaks to also a broader truth that just because a whole bunch of people are hating on something that got popular, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have value or something. Nickelback puts on a hell of a show. Like, let me tell you, they put on like amazing concerts, and they got the they're that famous for a reason. So there's something. If you strip away all the layers of meaning that we've assigned to Nickelback as a culture, there's something there still.
There's an identity in hating Nickelback.
Right,
Like that's
right,
the amazing realization here is
right,
when you start realizing the identity that hates Nickelback is not that's the thing that's actually amusing to kind of troll.
right.
Like this was
Yeah.
the genius. I know I said shit posting, but not really shit. Like you weren't actually trolling the band. You're actually saying like these
No,
guys are
I
getting an
kind of the
unfair
opposite.
shake.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, and whenever we approach, we take things seriously. I mean, I think people will think that if you watch a couple of our videos, and some of the videos are, especially from the early days, we had fun. Like we're just musicians. We like having fun. Some of them are silly, but they're never parody. They're not meant to be parody. Like I always take everything seriously in that way. So I'm looking at these Nickelback lyrics, and I'm trying to figure out what kind of song would they be in the Motown era. So I think it's a more interesting to approach it that way.
The not parody thing. I know you've thought probably way harder than anybody in this room has ever. Because like there's the Weird Al version of something. There's the total abject parody, and then there's I just want to reframe this picture to make it interesting to talk about.
Right. Yeah. Well, there can be still humor in something. It doesn't need to be
Oh
parody.
yeah.
So I mean, there can be some kind of things like, oh, that's
When Weird
amusing
Al
that
did
you
those
did.
polka
Yeah.
tributes,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
whatever, yeah, all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Like that's good stuff, but it's
No,
a different
absolutely.
type of
Yeah.
humor.
Yeah. I mean, it's different than what we do, but I mean, there's a new. I mean, the new Weird Al now is. I've sent you this guy's account. There, I ruined it. Have you guys seen that thing? There, I ruined it. Oh man, that's like my favorite Instagram account. It's this guy. He just does all these. He uses AI. I mean, we talk about AI this conference. This is how we're going to bring it full circle. I didn't mention AI in my talk, but I'm going to mention it now. This guy uses AI to create these, mashups in the way, similar to what we do with PMJ, but they're parody. They're it's more of a continuity, continuing the lineage of a Weird Al, for instance. But they're so well done, and some of them are so ridiculous.
The idea that you can you can strip the vocal out of something, you can strip the music out of something else, and then you could imprint. I'm trying to think of like what the Eminem one was or something like.
Oh
They're
yeah,
they're
yeah,
literally
yeah.
incredible works of art
Right.
for
Yeah, yeah,
collage.
yeah. They're very fun, and yeah.
So like, what's the line between? And I don't want to say like parody as trolling, but like what makes a song interesting that you want to pick it, and then say like I don't just want to pick this, but I want to run in this other direction with this thing. How's that
Yeah.
come up?
Well, I mean, I guess there's no one size fits all approach, but some of the things, the qualities that I look for in a song, I think would be, well, if there's a song, certainly if it has cultural relevance to, maybe it's the biggest song on the charts right now, so that's notable. Maybe it's a song that is was heavily featured in a movie. Maybe it was like "Where's My Mind" from Fight Club, something like that that has a lot of strong associations with it. And then usually from there, once I've kind of picked a song or something like that, or sometimes it's me working with a collaborator, working with a singer or somebody like that. We like to drill into it and really I look at the lyrics, I look at the structure of the song, the form of the song, and just figure out what would this song sound like, many years ago, and what kind of song would it be. So, I give the example, we did Sweet Child of Mine. And that's a funny thing because if you look at the lyrics and you just read it down, it's a blues song. It's an old blues song. It's the same format, everything. Even some of the language is similar to an old blues song. So then in our version, we would, get together a band that can, people that really know that style really well, like New Orleans blues. And we got this fantastic blues singer who's just like she's a legend, Mickey Braden. And we, and we recorded this video. So then the song kind of gets on a new meaning. It's the same song. It's got the same DNA, same everything, except in this new context, it's just a different type of song.
Isn't it weird too that Sweet Child of Mine slash Axl Rose basically were like, we're not going to write another blues song?
Yeah.
And you were kind of like, oh yes, you did.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I hope I'm not like losing people with just the music talk too much. I mean, I could always demonstrate something. I mean, would that make sense?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So, maybe we do a real time, like how I would think about one of these things. Like can we get it? Maybe just like I don't know. Let's pick any song. Just Nickelback. Okay. Well, you know what? I mean,
Yeah, Nickelback's a great example.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, all right. I'll do the other Nickelback song. Look at this photograph, the one from the meme. Yeah. Okay. So, Yeah, what are the chords for that? It's like,
Yeah, you got to get the.
and it's very like it has this descending progression to it. So my mind goes to thinking of like Diana Ross and the Supremes. They would have a lot of these songs that had these kind of where it's the bass. It still has this descending progression. So then when you put the melody. And then when you use the right instrumentation, then suddenly it becomes something else. So I'm giving kind of the broad strokes here of how I would think about something like that. But well, thank you. Now you too can arrange a Nickelback song in Motown style.
Now you've learned the secret art of Nickelback deconstruction. So connect this back though, like rest of the world, rest of life. Like you're gonna go back to your job at a hedge fund or at a central bank or programming AI for this company. Like we're just repackaging old stories that resonate in some way. Isn't that kind of like the whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, well, we all are. That's part of.
Please
yeah,
come sit.
I'm going to join you. I'll come right back, and I think stories run the world, right? And that's everything that's in art, that's in culture, that's in certainly in media and things like that. I think that you want to think beyond what your job title is, though. I mean, if I was gonna,
Oh yeah, you can stay on the soapbox. Just
right. I mean, and I think what I liked about what Ben wrote when he was talking about the make, protect, teach is that it wasn't something that was like quit your job and go move to a farm. It wasn't that. It was saying that you can keep these principles as kind of like what did Tom say? Was it attractants, like the stars above? Yeah, attractants. Yeah, thank you. So I think that that's a really great way to think of it. Is make, protect, teach as being just something that you're keeping in mind while you're doing these things. Like, are these is what you're doing in line with those kind of principles, with that kind of idea? Because that's where you're going to find the most meaning. It feels good to do those things. It feels great to create things. It feels great to protect people and to teach people. I mean, these are things that bring meaning to us. So I just think of it as that framework being just the overall. That's the stars in the sky. It doesn't mean quit your job. Don't quit your hedge fund job. Your family needs an income. Come on, let's not be crazy here. But it's more about just keep in mind. What's the purpose?
and then with like keeping people around you, you made a point in your talk about we incentivized for so long, and even like the post boy band like American Idol thing, it was like you got to get famous first and get famous on your own or get famous through one of these machines. I think one of my favorite things about the whole postmodern jukebox concept is you have these people who are like, it's the wonderfully talented theater kid, or like the guy who's just is like obsessed with like, well, I really love playing tenor sax, and I can play the jazz, and I can play the rock, and I can play the other stuff, but like, there's no work. Like, what the hell is that person supposed to do? Like, what else do they do? But they have a thing. There's homes for people who really care and love things.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, well said. I mean, I think that that's an important thing because in the music industry, especially today, I mean, relevance is really that's what labels are looking for. They're trying to make things that are relevant, and that comes right down to those algorithms that drive all the things that we see. If you're on Instagram, it's going to be showing you the things that are relevant to you. So the problem is that that's not necessarily great for art. Some kind of there are people that are creating amazing things, but it's not getting through this algorithm. And I mean, if you've had the pleasure or misfortune of scrolling through TikTok, and you come across somebody that is really talented, maybe they're a famous singer or author or whatever they are, and they're doing a dance, like some kind of dance, like just because that's what works on that platform. And so I think that there's uh, this kind of flattening of the that is coming across culture because of everybody creating for these algorithms, because that's what's getting through. That's what works. So what we're trying to do is really, give an alternative. Like we have some people that with us, they don't even have Instagram. They don't participate in any of that stuff, but they're so talented. And their talent is undeniable. And when people see them live, their first thought is, "Why isn't this person famous?" Well, I mean, we have a girl on our tour right now, Effie Passero, who's just the
Like,
craziest vocalist. She's the best vocalist I've ever worked with ever. Like I can't imagine anybody that can sing like she can sing.
I've never
And
seen an entire row. Like, I watched her perform,
like openly cry.
and I saw
Yeah.
the entire row on either side of me was openly weeping.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's an amazing experience. And when people will think and they'll come up to her and they're like, "I don't understand why you're not more famous." It's like, that's the wrong question to ask. Famous, it's not what you want. That's not really the goal. And I think that even outside of music, everybody's chasing relevance. I think people are spending way too much time and energy, trying to be relevant, trying to say the right things on Twitter, trying to build the right audience and give them what they want, more of what they want. And that just makes the world a little less interesting. I think it's just more interesting to see what's going on, what's happening in the shadows, what's not the biggest thing. And that's honestly how I found Epsilon Theory. I mean, that's not something that you're not going to read about in the New York Times necessarily, but still, it's one of the most valuable resources, like, as you guys know.
What about like for the people who own and operate businesses, or run something at their local church, like whatever you do in the community? I think this idea of, like, you're not just looking for relevance.
Yeah.
Like, how do you think about assembling the Voltron that comes together to be a PMJ, and not just looking for the person with the biggest TikTok following?
Right. Well, I mean, it's thinking long term. It's thinking about how are you going to, if you approach things thinking about how you're going to build something that lasts, and really that's what I took from my dad. And my dad was not a businessman at all. He's not. There's no entrepreneurship. He didn't have that, but he was obsessed with things that would last. In building our house, building, building a marriage, building all these kind of things. And when that is your attractant, and when that's your North Star and building something that lasts, you make different decisions than when you're just going for something, a quick hit of relevance or a quick hit of dopamine. So I think that is the right way to approach, building things, even on a local level, and that you might sacrifice some things, like you will. I mean, economics is just trade-offs. Everything comes with a trade-off. But so the thing that lasts might not be the thing that gets talked about the most. I would say, like, when I see like CEOs that are spending, they're on Twitter and they're just hyping up all these things and everything. It's like, that's not what a CEO is really supposed to do. That's a performance. And I mean, I'm a performer, and I can see like what I know what goes into a good performance, and I see so much performing on Twitter by people that aren't supposed to be performers. They're supposed to be public servants and things like that. So um, yeah, I mean, I'll get off my soapbox, but I don't even remember what your question was. I just kind of went on a tangent there.
But you're answering it, and
Mm.
I still think my favorite definition of Instagram was a museum for performative bullshit. Pretty much sums it up. But this idea of, when you're looking for that talent, that you're looking for other long-term thinkers. Like, if you're actually going to do something, you need to find long-term thinkers. It's also wild that people in the arts in particular are like you didn't get good at that overnight.
No, I mean, yeah,
That's
I
a
mean,
long-term thing.
that's an investment. I invested a lot of time on ragtime piano, too much time, and that's true with everybody that tours with us. I mean, forget about 10,000 hours. I mean, we're talking twice that on and they wouldn't be doing that. If their market was just to try to get relevant or try to be famous, that's not the way to do it. So I think they're demonstrating that they have a long-term view of something just by the mastery that they've achieved over an instrument.
it's so fascinating to me to think about that idea of if you're trying to build something, like we're talking about local things and small things and things that don't scale or scale to a point.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's most likely, like scaling doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, but there's definitely, in most things, there's a point where it's just too big, you know? And I think we need to be comfortable making things that don't scale again. And we need to remember what that's like.
What's is not scaling setting up a concert at the Walmart paint counter? Like, is that,
Yeah, I mean that does not scale. That's an experience. Yeah,
but wait, what about another, like, so a non-jokey version of that?
mm,
You spent a long time playing at was it the church or the homeless center in Hartford?
yeah, well, good memory. Yeah, there's yeah, we did that. It was like a Salvation Army. Yeah,
Yeah,
doing
and
the
that's a different type of long. I mean, tell the story. You spent years. You're still before you made it. Before you.
Yeah, it was a couple of years. It was like a job that I had when we were both living in Hartford, and yeah, it was like a rehab center, and I learned a whole bunch of they did gospel music there, so I didn't really know these songs, but I went and I learned it, and I kind of put my own spin on them, and it was a great audience. It was an amazing audience, and a very powerful kind of experience to see, and that it was. I mean, it doesn't get more local than that, like you had real human connection with people. These are people that uh, I played anything, and they would be just yeah, so appreciative, and it's just appreciative to be seen as people, and just it was a really beautiful thing.
I think about, like, imagine any of those people on their smartphone, because everyone has a smartphone, even if you're homeless
Yeah.
these days. Like figuring out, like, isn't that the kid that used to play at the soup kitchen with the thing?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, I got to find out my Walmart manager if that's the real one. I'm gonna figure that out.
Which now you're making me. I want you to tell this story too, because it's okay for people who are building their own local and small things also to not. You can still coexist in the world with people who don't get it.
Yeah.
I think it was when you were playing at Radio City and you went back to visit the dear woman who let
Oh, my
you.
landlord. Yeah, yeah. So I had this older Greek landlord when I moved to Astoria, that's the experience when you move to Astoria. You immediately get assigned a Greek landlord, and she didn't know my name. She called me Daniel for some reason, but she would always she had a very strong maternal streak in her. So she would always be bringing me like leftover food, but it was like really ridiculous quantities of food. So she'd be like, Daniel, come here. I got you a vat of like 5,000 peas, or like, did you get the chicken? I left it outside on your air conditioner, and it was like all these like, so there's just food everywhere, and here's like a bag of like 300 bagels. I'm like, what am I gonna do with 300 bagels? So anyway, I thought it would be like fun. Um, this was a Radio City musical. I was trying to get content around it. And I figured that, a very good story would be to go back, see my landlord, and, talk about performing. I was going to invite her to my show, be like, yo, so Agatha, this band that I, started, remember I used to do the music thing in the basement and people would like, bang on the walls and tell me to shut up, well, it made it big. I'm playing Radio City Music Hall tonight and I want you to be there front row. I had a ticket for her. We had a film crew and everything like that. And I deliver this, and she just like sits back in her chair. She looks really uncomfortable. She's like, I have a thing. I have the exterminator. I cannot go. The exterminators come. Got to get the rats out of here. I cannot go. And I'm just like, okay, well, there you go. So that's some real life. That's real life. That was how I learned, not to set up these moments just for the sake of, a narrative.
But how wild to. So, number one, the idea that this lady exists and we've all met a version of this lady.
Mm.
Like, she is owning that local community to the point of feeding tenants who she's worried for.
Yeah, totally. Well, she's invested in her local community. She's thinking local. She's doing the right thing. She didn't care about our concert. Like, that doesn't affect her.
She had an exterminator coming. There were rats.
That's real life stuff. Yeah, and that's
probably from the food she was leaving all over.
Probably related. It's probably somewhat related.
Was she a government employee?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I don't know. I'd like to take some. And if there's any questions from the audience,
Yeah.
I'd like to.
let's open it up.
Yeah.
Scott's here. Drinks await, but you know, that glass. Does anybody have a question for
Yeah.
Scott? Here we go.
A Denny's? Yeah. No, I haven't played it at Denny's. That would be I don't know, Steve. Did we do any gigs at a Denny's? I don't think so. We played at a gas station one time. We were I was really obsessed for a little while. I had this idea of putting music where it didn't belong. So we would roll up to like a gas station, like an Exxon Tiger Mart, and we just come in with instruments like, hey, we're the band. And then we would set up and just start playing. And this is true. This is really what we did. And just see, you know, eventually we'd get kicked out or not. I mean, sometimes we just stay there and play our gig at the gas station. That's what you do. I lived in a small town. It's very boring. Yeah. Say one more time. Suno.
AI music creation.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we. I talked about There I Ruined It. I believe that he uses one of those tools for some of his stuff. There I Ruined It. Yeah, hours of enjoyment right there. Yeah.
We've ruined the rest of your weekend in the best way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I haven't messed around too much with the AI, you know, music creation stuff, but I tried like one of them. I was like actually pretty impressed. I'm like, wow, that was, you know, I guess it's going to be interesting to see how they trained all these models on, like, you know, there's going to be a lot of conflict between the labels and the AI stuff. That's going to be very contentious legal fight, I'm predicting, but the technology is interesting.
So tell us a little bit about Zeigler's secret rapping career.
I know. I can't believe that this hasn't come up yet. So we went to college together. Okay. And at that time, I wasn't, you know, I was a musician, but I was not at the level that Ziegler was at. He had a band that was, they were like nominated. They won all the newspaper polls for like best band in Hartford. They played all these big, what were you saying? You opened for P-Funk and De La Soul and all these great artists.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, also, I saw you when you opened from Vanilla Ice, which is even more significant. But
We did troll Vanilla Ice properly, but that's
yeah, that's right. I think there's a video of that somewhere. But
let's hope not.
but Ziegler, I mean, again, he was one of those kids that was always the smartest kid in the room, even back then and now, you know. And he had this amazing talent for just being able to freestyle rap, like just on cue about anything. And he used to do a thing with his band where they would they would encourage people from the audience just take out whatever was in their pocket and put it in a pile, and then he would just pick up all the items and create this whole tapestry of a rap just based on all this stuff. I mean, could we get you to do this? Why don't we do this? I mean, I got a keyboard. I'll drop you a beat. Take out what's in your pocket. Put it right here in this pile.
This is.
And
Oh yeah, there we go.
Ben has an N95 mask.
N95
on brand.
So
Okay,
the
great.
best way this works is the weirder the items that you do this. And this is, you know, I'll get you back for this somehow. We got to have a zine up there somewhere. We've got some other fun stuff. Oh yeah, there we go.
All right, I mean, I have to give you.
Oh man. Oh, we got multiple chapsticks going. Yeah, you got to get a really good sound on this.
I got to get the right sound. I got to make a sound that you'll be, comfortable.
What even is this? You were playing at gas stations? I mean, this is some deep Midwest stuff right here.
Yeah, cool rewards card. I don't know what you're gonna do with that.
I don't know what I'm gonna do with most of this stuff. Yeah. That was a bad reference for another one. We'll make the most of this.
You can also find him. His music. Is it on SoundCloud now? Is it?
I think so. This is the great stuff about this was like during the pandemic, like reconnecting with all your old friends.
Yeah.
Like we got to be way closer friends again. I think during the pandemic,
totally.
just because you have time and
Yeah.
like you're doing the Zoom calls with the friends, and yeah, it was like I got all my high school bandmates. We all had like a group chat going, and we're sharing funny photos. The college band had the funny thing.
Yeah.
You know, and then the scary stuff starts coming up. Like somebody's like, "Oh, I do have the Vanilla Ice opening set where where you insisted on covering or recreating the scene from Ninja Turtles 2
As one does.
before he goes on stage." At least Rusty appreciates that one.
But yeah, his group was called the Silent Groove, and it's on Silent Groove. It was
Bandcamp or SoundCloud,
Bandcamp,
or
one of those things.
One of those things that.
All right. So I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a beat, and then you just start however you do.
We're
do this.
yeah, we're gonna
Okay.
try to scratch some cobwebs off.
I have an idea for something.
Okay. Oh, that's actually really funny. This is a deep cut. Now the question too is like things that I just don't even know what they are. I feel so outdated and old.
Yeah.
All right, I'm crouching for my age and for the sake of I'm probably gonna keep moving and messing up this microphone here.
Do you want this one?
No, then wait. Well, yeah, sure. Let's just get obnoxious. We'll go all the way obnoxious with this. Okay, so this goes back to us hanging out in college. All right, we just got to get into it. Here we go.
People wouldn't believe what we used to do. Back somewhere in Hartford when we used to go to school, I used to think it was nice. They would tell me the worst words when I would go up to a girl and tell her, "Baby, I go to Harvard." She couldn't understand, no joke. Used to drink it down like it was a can of Coke, but, you know, it was college. No fear. You don't drink Coke. What you do is you drink beer. So many things that you would do, reading your magazines, staying home, looking at the teens that you're hanging out with, saying, "Hey, it's big, it's me. I'm talking about, no, nah, diggity." Still a bad joke. But I can make a move. Little poke, so you can drop it, even when you start to nod. Even when you're falling to sleep, you fall asleep with the AirPods, and the one falls out on the pillow, you can't find it the next day. You wonder when it'll go away, wonder what you're gonna say. You wanna tell them all, you think that this is your life, pulling it out like a Swiss Army knife. I got things to go for days, make them all know that it could go in crazy ways. The first thing I thought about this was kinda odd. I picked this up and thought this was an old school iPod. Still don't know what it is. Tell the kids, ask them all. Won't be fool ya. I have no idea about Howard and Sons Moolah. That's some Indiana stuff. Enough said about Indiana stuff. Play dues. You gotta make sure, like Langston Hughes. In these shoes, Saucony saved my life. That's some true news. Wore a pair, cut my leg with a chainsaw. It was 2001. Still have a scar, you saw. It goes real thick. And at this conference, we have an abundance of chapstick. Vaseline with aloe vera. Burt's Bees. Somebody give it to Sarah. That one will tear you, you can't compare her. Oh, keep it alive. Leave it to Ben Hunt to show up with an N95. Should've saved the line for last. When we went back to class, figuring out all the days and the rays would pass. And last thing, Scott, you know, I'd really love to tell you. I want you under my umbrella. Sing it in the rain, buddy. Sing it in the rain.
All right. Yeah. Matt Zeigler, everybody.
I think that means it's time for drinks. It's time for drinks. Day one concluded. I like a bit of fun to do. You know, you gotta just make it happen. You said weirder the better. The weirder the better. That was awesome.